Welcome to a very special edition of the ROTL Lions UK podcast. I'm Matthew Turner alongside my co-host Anthony Fitzpatrick, Ryan McCluskey. As you can see, we got a legend in the house. Former Lions safety Glover Quin is here. How you doing, man? Thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate your time.
Man, I'm doing great, man. How are you guys doing? Appreciate you guys having me, by the way.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Glover. I just want to say I'm completely fanboying right now. You, to this day, are still my favorite Detroit Lions player ever, and to be here talking with you now is something completely special. So, thank you for doing this. It's made my day.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. Thank you. That's a high it's a high compliment, man.
And thanks to
But
Ryan as well for
I
arranging
definitely
it in
do
the first
appreciate
place.
it. Right,
Yeah,
right.
I just always reaching out to people, like say, and I said to myself, if there's anyone I can have on, I'd love to get Glover on because everyone's like fangirling, but I'm a defensive back. I play it. I love defensive back as a position. You had that fantastic reign as a safety, and we've not been able to replace you since. It feels like there's been a hole ever since you left.
Oh,
they got some talented guys there, man. They got some guys there. Tracy's playing well. If he stay healthy, and he just got to learn. You guys caught me, Detroit for the most part. You guys caught me in, the latter part of my career. I mean, towards I don't say end, but in my prime years. So the learning experiences that the Houston fans had to deal with. Although I played well in Houston as well, but the GQ that you guys got to see was, prime GQ, year 6, 7, 8, feeling good. GQ knew a lot more things.
So, just to give a bit of background to the guys who are perhaps from the UK who follow us, who are perhaps new to the game and never watched you play, drafted 112th overall in 2015 by the Texans, 159 games played. I think you missed one game in total because of a concussion in Houston, and otherwise you played in every single game that you were eligible for, which is insane. 96 games for Detroit, 24 interceptions in your career, which is insane. Especially at the safety position too. Led the NFL in 2014 with 7 interceptions in that same year. You've got Pro Bowl and second team All Pro honors. But according to PFF, that wasn't even your best year. That was 2017, which is insane. I remember that NFL.com highlighted that it was a travesty you didn't make the All Pro vote at that time. So that's something. And I found out actually in my research today that you're colleging the Pecan Grove Gators. Is that how you say that?
Yeah, Pecan Grove Gators, yes.
Those interceptions for the Lions as well. It's just a selected few. You intercepted Eli Manning twice, Drew Brees twice, Phillip Rivers, Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers, Matt Ryan, Ben Roethlisberger, and that's leaving out the 4 against Jay Cutler, I think it was. There was a couple against Teddy Bridgewater. You have intercepted the best of the best. And to start it all off, going way back, I was watching an interview that you did with Easy Sports last year, and you were talking to him about the fact that you started off in JUCO. And we over here, and I know the Americans too, really love the sort of like the long shot story. And you started out in JUCO. You were talking about the fact that you weren't highly recruited out of high school because you were just at a small place, and you were still playing really well, but you just didn't get noticed because of where you were. You went to JUCO with the aim of like ascending quickly, and then you broke your arm and only played 2 games, and Katrina happened the following year, and then you ended up eventually transferring to New Mexico. But that's an incredible journey, and like the fact that you even made it to the NFL from there is incredible. Is that a testament to you've always been known for your work ethic? Like whenever you hear anyone talking about you, it's about your work ethic. Do you think that it was your work ethic which got you there, or do you think it was the fact that you started from down there that maybe developed that skill so quickly? Because it felt like when you came into the league, you were pro ready already.
Yeah, I mean, I think my work ethic basically came from where I'm from. Small town Mississippi. Watching my dad work very extremely hard, to try and provide for us. It's just, rubbed off on me. And then, to come from where I came from, you really got to work extremely hard to get seen, to put yourself out there. to show that you can compete with, the rest of the world, the guys that are, coming up a little different than you. And so you kind of put that chip on your shoulder because, when you come from a small town, small places, people kind of look down on you and don't think, you're good in Mississippi. You're not very good against, Texas or California, just different places like that. And so you kind of just got to put that chip on your shoulder and go to work and say, you know what, I'm going to go and prove that, I can play with anybody, just like everybody else. And so you kind of have to build that. And, through all my experiences going through high school, JUCO, just kind of built me to, who I am. And, I remember going into New Mexico, and the way I approached the game, the way I approached practices, and the way I did things, it was different from most college kids. They was like, bro, you weird, like you crazy, or you this. And I was just like, man, this is just kind of how I am. And, and I had multiple guys, like when I was in JUCO, I had multiple guys telling me that, like, hey man, you're a D1 type of guy, like just because of how I was in JUCO. And then when I went to New Mexico, it was the same way, like, man, you're like a league DB, bro. And, as I got older and in college and started talking to agents and stuff, I had several agents already tell me, like, hey man, you're kind of like league ready already. Like stuff that you're doing, the way you go about your business, it's kind of like you're league ready. You're better at that stuff than some of my guys who are already in the league. And so that's just kind of how I was. I was very about my business, about my work. I had a plan, had a goal, and I wanted to go after, I wanted to reach it, and that's what I was about.
I mean, it's amazing that you were told that about yourself, and that some people might let that get to them. Like, oh, you're pro ready. Oh, well, if I'm here, then I don't need to try so much. Like a lot of people would take that and be okay with it, but it seems like you just kind of shut that out a bit. Like, kind of, you were like not bothered by what other people were saying, whether it was good or
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah, I mean that stuff didn't bother me. I mean, I knew what my goal was. I mean, for somebody to say that I was league ready already, like that's cool, but I'm not in the league right now, so I got to continue to do the things I need to do to be in the league. And for me, it was easy because it wasn't like I was, putting on an act or putting on a front to make people think that this is how I was. This was just, this is just who I was. So it didn't matter, the day-to-day stuff, week in, week out, that stuff didn't really matter to me. It wasn't like I had a a timer on, like, all right, man, I can only keep this up for another 2 weeks. I was like, nah, man, this is who I am. And so I didn't, what people said about me being good, not being good, none of that stuff really bothered me. I don't know, man. I don't know if it's how I was raised, but I've kind of had especially when it comes to sports and stuff, I've kind of had a real good feel for who I was as a player, what I was good at, what I wasn't good at. I kind of knew myself, and I was one of those guys where I didn't need anybody to tell me I had a good game. I didn't need anybody to tell me I had a bad game, because there was times where statistically I probably had a good game, but mentally I left the game feeling like, man, I really didn't play great today. Like, I missed a couple of these, I missed a couple of that. Yeah, I had 7 tackles and I ended up catching the pick, but I really didn't have a great game. And then there was times where statistically it looked like I didn't have a good game. You have 3 tackles or, no pass breakups and this and that. But mentally, physically, I was like, man, that was probably one of my best games. Like I was, mentally, I was on top of everything. I knew what plays they were running. I had a good beat on it. Like I was calling stuff out, like I was getting guys lined up, and you leave the game feeling like you had a really good game. And so I didn't really need or depend on people to tell me that I had a good game or I had a bad game. I kind of knew the way I played and the way I didn't play. I was always respectful, because everybody's going to say, man, good game and all that. But I knew, what I done, what I didn't do. And like you said, 2014 is the year I made the Pro Bowl because I led the league in interceptions. But 2017 probably was my best year, like you said. And that was kind of a slap in the face because I was like a 4th alternate for the Pro Bowl that year. I mean, they actually even called me to come to the Pro Bowl that week, and I declined. I was like, nah, I don't want to go, man. I should have been there already. But if you're gonna call me to be like come midweek because somebody else pulled out, like, nah, I'm good, bro.
Oh, come on. A trip to
Yeah.
Hawaii? That could have been good.
Well,
You said,
it wasn't in Hawaii though. Like
oh,
the Pro Bowl used to be in Hawaii. It's not in Hawaii now. Like when the year I made it, it was in Arizona. And then the year that I was alternate, it was I think it was in Orlando or something like that. I think it was in Orlando.
so you said, actually, just before we move on to the next main question, you said that you kind of had a good feel for like where your strengths and weaknesses were, and you didn't really need anyone to tell you that. When you were in college and kind of ascending, where did you think your game was? Where was like the biggest learning curve for you in college from then to the pros? Like where were you weak? Because it didn't really appear like you had a huge myriad of weaknesses, I would have said, throughout your pro career.
Well, I would say, I was playing corner in college, and I've never been, I would say, a true cover corner because I'm not the fastest guy. I wasn't the most quickest, those little small, quick, fast corners. I wasn't one of those guys. So that was always tough for me. I always had to win with my physical ability, being, strong, tough tackler, and just being smart. And, by being smart, you can put yourself in position, put yourself in spots to where you can affect the game, affect plays, and you don't have to be as fast. So you're kind of playing with your brain. So in college, I really needed to work on my covering, understanding those different things. I was always smart. I always understood football, so I was always smart. When it came to the game. I was never scared to tackle, and so I was always good at those things. And so that's kind of what I had to play to, and that's one of the things I feel like one of the most important things that I generally tell young players when I talk to them is, you got to be who you are. That's what the teams, draft you for or pick you for, because this is what they've seen. So if you are known as a cover corner, then when we draft you, you have to be a cover guy. If you're known as a physical tackler, then when we draft you, you have to be a physical tackler. You can't be known as a physical tackler in college or in high school, and then you get to the next level and you act like you don't want to tackle because they didn't recruit you or they didn't draft you to be a cover guy when you never shown that you could cover. They drafted you to be a tough tackler. And so you get guys, look at, running backs or fullbacks or guys like that who are known for certain things. And then when they get to the next level, they try to evolve their game and they kind of get away from what they really are and try to be something that they see the next person doing. It's like, hey, man, you guys are on the same team. Obviously, this guy is a cover corner. So that's why they want him on the team. You are a physical corner. That's why they want you on the team. So don't lose your physicality. That doesn't mean you don't work on your coverage ability so you continue to get better at being a cover guy. But you can't lose the will and the physical ability and that part of your game that they wanted you for in the first place. And so that's kind of what I did, man. I just kind of knew who I was. I was a physical guy, tackle, and I was smart. So I always played to that. I knew that I wasn't a great cover guy. I could cover in the scheme of the defense, but just, one-on-one, man-to-man, just don't, like, that really wasn't my strength. So I had to continue to work on that. But when it came to things that I was good at, I had to make sure that I, stayed on top of them and capitalized and executed those at a high level.
Follow-up question actually from Luke G's field review, and I know that he was kind of bigging you up when you were starting your channel. He says, first tell GQ I said, what up though? And then ask him how hard it is to go from safety to cornerback.
Well, what up though? But it all depends. I think you vary. So I went from corner to safety, and so I don't know if you ever see people go from safety to corner just because the differences in the positions. But you see guys that can go from corner to safety because the way you play corner, you can see guys who may be bigger, maybe a little more physical, smarter, can handle different things, but they don't have a long future as a corner. You know, you see it with Quandre Diggs now, who was a Detroit Lion. He plays for Seattle now. He came in the same way as kind of I did. It was a corner / nickel guy, but he was physical. He had good ball skills. He was smart. So you can see, okay, he has a couple years where he can play nickel, play corner, but he's going to make his money and have his long-term future as a safety. So you just got to see the game from a different angle. You know, as a corner, you're looking at the game from the outside in, from the safety, you're looking at the game from the back, and you get to see everybody. And you have to be able to handle, everything, because you got to communicate with a bunch of different players. You know, when you as a corner, you don't really have to communicate with many people. They're always communicating with you. They're telling you, this is what we're doing. This is what we're in. It helps when you have smart corners who already kind of know. So now you're not having to communicate to them as far as what they're doing. You're just kind of confirming that they know, hey, this is what we're in, right? Because, they know the scheme, the scheme. But you have some of those guys who don't know, and they're just waiting for you to tell them, hey, we're playing this coverage. Hey, we're playing that coverage. And those guys are tough. And those guys probably aren't guys that can transition to be great safeties, because when you become a safety, like I said, you have to know the linebacker play, the D-line play. You have to know the run fits. You have to know the coverages underneath. You have to know the deep coverage. You have to know the outside coverages. It's a lot of different things that you have to know. And on top of that, you have to want to be a tackler. You have to understand your angles, because it's different from a corner where you're playing it from outside in, or, you always have the sideline right there, as opposed to you playing as a safety. And now you're in the middle of the field. You got a lot of space on each side. So it's just different angles, different techniques, different things like that, different, responsibilities from a corner to a safety. Whereas, everybody can't handle all the differences. And so it takes, a certain individual, and you generally can spot them pretty quickly and know, okay, this guy's going to play a couple years at corner, and then he'll transition and be a good safety towards the end of his career.
And you want to take the next one?
Yeah, so obviously, I've already mentioned already, you were, very much loved by the Lions fan base. Obviously, myself, I did, Ryan mentioned, the whole when you left, it still stings to this day. And, yeah, you were very much loved by the fans. And the most common comment we got when we mentioned that we were bringing you on the podcast from you as a player was how cerebral that you were. Your knowledge of the game, your football IQ was just, up there. It was elite. So obviously you were a leader on the Detroit defense, when you were here. Did you appreciate that while you were here playing? Did you sort of know that, you were one of the guys on that defense who was leading it from the front? Or were you just very much an in the moment player? You just came in, you did your work, and maybe not even noticed that you'd ascended to a position of seniority on that defense?
That's kind of how it started. When I came there as a free agent in 2013, they had told me that they wanted me to be kind of like a change. They want to, go in a different direction. They want to rebrand the team kind of, and they wanted me to be a part of that. So when I came in, I came in as a free agent, and I was just kind of like me, just kind of coming in to play, be a leader, be who I was. And then, the next year, my second year that I was there, we got Coach Caldwell, and we got a different coaching staff. And, I had kind of, developed into a leader in on our defense, and, in our secondary especially. And so when Coach Caldwell and them got there, they kind of built their, I don't want to say system, but I had a pretty good leadership role from what they wanted me to do and what they expected from me. And 2014 was the year I led league in interceptions and made the Pro Bowl and all those things. And so that kind of solidified myself as, a top guy on our defense, a top leader. And that kind of just went along with everything else, the work ethic that I had, the command that I had from the guys, the respect that I had from the guys. And so it just kind of grew from that. And so I began to understand who I was to the team, on the team, for the team. on the defense, for the defense. And, you know, that was really my focus. You know, I wasn't into, you know, just being about me. I was always about the team, about the next guy, about helping the next guy, because I mean, we're only going to be as good as our weakest one. And so if we can teach everybody, help everybody, get everybody up to speed, we're going to obviously be better. So if that was linebackers, wide receivers, I just wanted to be that guy that was just, you know, available for anybody to talk to. If you was an offensive guy and you wanted to, you know, some things defensively, come holler at me. We can chat and just help each other out. And so I think for me, that was one of the biggest things, is just, you know, once I got to that point to where I felt like I had that super role, to where not only was I a defensive back leader, I was a defensive leader, I was also a team leader. It was kind of me and Stafford, you know. Stafford was a offensive guy, I was a defensive guy, but then when it came to the team, it was kind of me and Stafford. And, you know, a couple years after I got there. So that was a good feeling to know that, you know, you are a leader and you're looked at in that way. But it didn't really affect kind of how I went about my business, because like I said, that's just how it was the whole time. It just worked out that way. And, you know, that role just kind of became from what I'd done on the field and what I was doing off the field, and guys could clearly see my work ethic and how I went about my business. And it just kind of morphed into that.
Ryan, have you got a question? I know you haven't seen the doc, but you set the interview up. I'm sure you have loads of questions to go over.
Yeah, my question is, so let's set this picture. So you just turned 32, and I've read an article today that was talking about what they believe to be your final game. They paint this picture of you out before the rest of the defenders on the field. You've got a hoodie on, you're listening to music, doing your own workouts for everyone else. They think it's the last time you're going to suit up. Now, you've missed like one career game to date. You've been almost the pinnacle of health, barely take snaps off. You're only 32. Tell me about the decision to step away from the game and retire, because it's not like your career was ended. So what brought you to that decision so soon? Because it feels like you were playing some great stuff in your final years. It felt like you weren't forced away from the game. You made the decision. How long have you been thinking about that? And ultimately, what were the decisions? And when do you know it's time to, you know, hang them up, even though you're playing so well?
You know, for me, and this is I don't want to say it's weird, but this is kind of, you know, I only wanted to play for 10 years. And, you know, you say, well, that's a long shot because the average is only like 2.5, 3 or whatever. But I'm sure if you ask most players, most of them will probably say they want to at least play 10 years. So for me, that's really all I wanted to play. And, you know, I came into the league at 23 and I wanted to finish at 32. And I felt like, you know, I had always told myself that if I was fortunate enough to walk off the field after year 10, then it would be very difficult for me to walk back on, because the thing I wanted was, you know, I always looked at the NFL as a stepping stone into like the rest of my life. I didn't look at the NFL as like, you know, my entire life, who I was. It was always kind of like what I did. You know, this is what I do. I play football, right? But who I was as a person, I didn't feel like NFL was who I am, right? And so for me, I only wanted to play 10 years. And so that's kind of how I live my life. That's kind of how I approach the game. And that's probably why I never took days off, plays off, because I wanted to maximize as much as I could in those 10 years. I wanted to try to win as much as I can. I wanted to try to make as much money as I can. I want to try to meet as many people as I can, network as much as I can, do everything that I could do in those 10 years, so that when those 10 years came and I was able to walk away from the game, that I could do that. And so for me, when I got to year 10 and, you know, things were going the way they were, and I got to my last game, like I was tired. I was ready to hang them up. Because I didn't want to be forced away from the game, and I didn't want to leave the game not being able to play. I wanted to leave the game knowing that I still could play the game, because I got 3 boys, man, 3 young boys. And so I kind of felt like if I'm good enough and in good enough shape to still be able to play in the NFL, then I'm probably in good enough shape to be able to run around with my kids and enjoy being a father and a leader and all those different things. And so now I'm 35, and honestly, I kid you not, like I literally don't even feel like I played in the NFL. I mean, like my body doesn't hurt. I mean, I run around with my kids, I coach, I got nephews, defensive back, we go to track, we run, the field work, like whatever it is, I can still do those things. And so that's kind of what I wanted. I didn't want, a horrific injury or something like that to take me away from the game. And then now, 3 years out of the game, I'm having to have, hip replacement or knee replacement or, different things like that that just, affect, the type of lifestyle that you get to live. And so, being that I was able to play every game except for one, I felt like I maximized that time. I felt like I maximized being on the field. And when it was time for me to walk away, I felt comfortable and confident in doing it because I had gave the game everything that I had. I had no regrets.
Um, just maybe to add on that, if since you did retire, have you ever had the itch to come back and play again? And just maybe to supplement that, I don't know how much you watch the Lions or anything now, but is MCDC and his staff, is that a staff that, if you were playing, you would like to play for, especially, under Coach Glenn, you see all these young guys in the secondary are there making the most of their chances, playing really well. Would he be a guy you would theoretically like to play under if you were still playing?
Well, you know what? I haven't really had many thoughts about coming back. I've actually got asked a few times. I think there might have been maybe one time when I kind of started coaching, maybe at the beginning of the year, where I kind of joked around with, some former coaches, and I was like, "Hey, man, I think I'm gonna work out for about 2 months and see how I feel come December. If y'all making a playoff run, I might be ready to come back." But I just couldn't bring myself to like training for it. And I felt like, what, to me, that's kind of a disrespect to the game that I love, like when I played, I spent years and days and nights just training and training my body to be able to perform and stay healthy and do all these different things. And so to feel like I can take 3 years off and then just work out for 2 months and come back out there and play at a high level with guys that this is what they've been doing every single day. I just don't feel like that's right. And for me, I was like, I don't want to go 10 years of playing and then I try to go back out there after 3 years off. And next thing you know, I got a torn ACL, torn Achilles, and now the rest of my life is, I ain't gonna say screwed, but now I got this injury that I'm having to deal with for the rest of my life, all because I decided to come back and try to play. So I kind of gave those things up. But when it comes to Coach Campbell, I don't really know him like that. I mean, I know what I've seen from the interviews and just different things like that. But I mean, he seems to be a fiery guy. Seems to be someone that you will want to play for. Believes in you. He's passionate about what he does. So I can't say that I would or wouldn't want to play for him. Because my whole thing when I was playing was, hey, I got an opportunity to play football, and this is who the coach is. So we got to figure out a way to make it work. And so that was kind of my approach to it. And so if he would have been there and I was there, and if he wanted me on the staff, wanted me on the team, then shoot, yeah, I'll be out there trying to.
Going back to that 2014 year, we actually had a question from where is he? Ben Brooker on Facebook, and it kind of tied into something I wanted to ask anyway. So the Lions got to the wild card in that year, just missed out on a bye by losing to Green Bay in the final week, which was a bitter blow. And then we play the Cowboys. I mean, it's the worst. It's still so horrible, but like ignoring that, it's probably the best team that I can think of in the last 20 years of Lions football, at least since the last playoff win in 1991. Did you come away from that season kind of feeling like the team had left something on the table? Obviously, like the game was stolen against the Cowboys, but we could have beaten Green Bay and not ever played that game. So, whatever. But the offense and defense kind of seemed to play complementary football all the way through the year. It really seemed like something had clicked. And am I kidding myself by thinking that it was a team that could have gone all the way? Did you guys feel that?
Yeah, we definitely did. We had the pieces. We had a good quarterback in Stafford. We had running backs. We had wide receivers, tight ends. You had a good old line, so you had the pieces offensively. We had pieces defensively. We had a great D line, good linebackers, good secondary, and the game against Green Bay. We just couldn't figure out a way to make enough plays and to win that game. Obviously Aaron Rodgers is a great quarterback, and what they've been doing in Green Bay for a long time is really difficult to win, especially up in Green Bay in week 17, I think, that year. And so that was a tough game. We let that one slip, and then going to Dallas. We jumped out on those guys pretty good. I think it was up maybe 14-0 maybe. Something like that. And then, we give up a play right before the half. I think we gave up a big play, and that changed the game. And then the second half, they made a couple plays. And then for that to happen in the second half with the pass interference call, it's unfortunate. As players, you try not to, like, at least for me, I try not to, make it about that one play. You know what I'm saying? Like, the game could have been so different and that play wouldn't even mattered, if we had continued to take care of our business. But that's kind of how it played out, and people feel what they feel about it. But we definitely let that year slip away. We definitely let that year slip away. But it was also a huge year for us in Detroit, making the playoffs, doing something, becoming a respectable team, formidable opponent. I think, the year before, I think that year we only had maybe 2 primetime games. I think we opened up Monday night against the Giants on Monday Night Football. And then I think we always had that Thanksgiving game that we played. But then the next year after we made that run, I think we had like five primetime games. And so, to be able to put a team, a city, on the map, on the TV networks like we did, that was a huge accomplishment. And just to make people think twice about playing Detroit. And so to come back and then, you just putting yourself in those games, I know as fans, you want to just be able to get in those games and win those games and go win a Super Bowl and do all those good things. But it don't always work like that. But the more you put yourself in those games, the more you put yourself in the playoffs, the more you put yourself in situations, eventually at some point it will happen, and you will have enough guys that know how to win and know exactly what to take and know how to prepare and all those different things. And it'll work out and it'll win. It'd be a great feeling for the fans. It just wasn't our time. And so we kept working, and, we got back there again. I think we did the same thing, right? We had another playoff game. We had to go to, I think we went to Seattle, I think, first round, and another tough place to play, coming off of another winner-take-all game, I think, against Green Bay in week 17. But I think we had that game in Detroit, and we ended up losing that one again. So, it just wasn't our time, man. But it was a great run that we had, and unfortunately, it ended the way it ended, and it's kind of like the Lions had to start all over again.
And you want to take this one?
Yeah. So you mentioned about the team there, how close you were. Was there a moment that you can recall, sort of a locker room moment, maybe one of the funniest locker room moments you had there when you were here with the Lions?
Oh man, we had tons of them, man. Just guys being funny, being crazy in the locker room, man. We had a lot of different games, different things that we done. I'm not really one of the guys that kind of put out locker room stories, just because the locker room is such a sacred place. And, it's just kind of like, when guys leave the game, one of the things they miss the most is the locker room, because you just have so much going on, so many different personalities, so many different things. You spend a lot of time up there. I mean, we're up there 12 to 14 hours a day. So you spend a lot of time up there, which is a lot of time in the locker room before games, after games. But some of those guys are hilarious, man. Just super funny. Dance competitions. You see guys, have rookies doing different things, man. You know, I mean, you could do a full, like, I wouldn't say documentary, but like a full like show, comedy show, whatever you want to make it, just based off the locker room. Like, and people will be so interested in like the little things that go on inside of the locker room. But I'm not the one to put those things out there.
So Ryan, you must have another one.
I do, yeah. You've mentioned the boys, obviously. I know you're into like coaching them. You care about them playing football, how they play it. What kind of coach has the NFL made you, and what positions do they play? How much do they love football? How does it affect their lives having you in it and play football? Is it just revolved around the family always?
You said my boys?
Yeah, sorry. What positions do they play? How you coach, obviously. What kind of coach are you in your position?
Oh yeah. So my boys, so my oldest son, he plays wide receiver, defensive back, corner, safety type. My middle son, he played running back and kind of safety. He's younger, he's only 9. And then my 6-year-old, he played like safety and running back. But those guys are they're athletic. And the thing that I struggle with, especially being here in Texas, is just the fact that they want to start playing so early. I didn't start playing tackle football, organized tackle football, at least until I was in 7th grade. I hear my 6-year-old just finished flag football and they're ready for him to get into tackle football next year. And I'm like, God, he's 7 years old. Like, I don't know if he need to play tackle football at 7 years old. I mean, my oldest son is, like I said, he just turned 12, and this was his first year playing tackle football. He played flag, I think, when he was like 8. But we've been playing baseball, and I always told him, like, hey, I'll teach you guys how to play. I'll show you guys everything you guys need to know when it comes to playing. I teach you how to play. I teach you how to tackle. I'll teach you guys the game. Just trust me and be patient. And so my oldest son went out this year, and it was multiple people that was like, dog, there's no way that's his first year playing. I'm like, yeah, bro. He's never played tackle football, but when it's kind of in your genes, in your blood, and then you have the proper coaching and proper teaching, you can go out there and play, especially if you're athletic and you know what you're doing. But for me, when it comes to coaching the younger kids, man, I believe in teaching them. And, I don't want to just teach them and show them like what to do. I believe in teaching them why they're doing it and how it affects them, when they do it right, and how it affects them when they do it wrong. And so I feel like if I do those things, and not, like I said, not just show you what to do, but tell you why you're doing it and how it affects you, I feel like that helps you become a problem solver when you're faced with different situations on the field, because there'll be other things that come up and you may not know exactly what to do. But if I've told you and taught you what to do, how to do it, when to do it, maybe you can apply that in those situations without somebody actually having to tell you exactly what to do. And I'm gonna use like a baseball example. When you're coaching like T-ball, right? You have these coaches when, especially when they're on defense, the team will hit the ball and the ball might go to the pitcher or something like that. And they're trying to get the kid out at first. And then, the next kid come up and they hit the ball off the tee, and then the first runner go to second. And next thing you know, you eventually end up with the bases loaded, right? You got a runner on first, second, and third. So then the next time the kid hits the ball, it goes to the pitcher, and then the coaches are screaming at the pitcher like, hey, go touch home plate, go touch home plate. So then you get this kid that's at the pitcher mound. He picks up the ball, he runs, he touches home plate, right? And everybody celebrates. Yeah, great job, good job. So then now, you get to the next inning, there's nobody on base, and the first kid gets up and hits the ball, and the pitcher gets it, and he runs home and touches home plate. And everybody's like, no, throw it to first. And it's like, this kid's like, well, what do you mean? Last time I went and touched home plate, I got an out and everybody celebrated. What's going on this time? And it's because they didn't teach the kid why he was going to home plate. They just told him to go to home plate. And so when you teach the kids, hey, this is why you would go to home plate. This is why you would go to first. This is why you would go to second. Those different things, now they learn how to play. They learn the game. And I get it. Some kids would know that, but everybody don't know, because you have some kids that are just going out to play baseball and they're learning, right? So it's the same way with football. You just tell a kid, hey, go do this. Well, he don't know why he's doing it. He don't know when to apply it other than that one specific situation. So the next time he goes to do that, that may be the wrong situation. And now you're fussing like, no, you got to do this. Well, last time you told me to do that. So I believe in teaching them the right way, teaching them how to do it, teaching them why to do it, teaching them when they do it. And I tell them always, you do things the right way, winning to happen. Winning to happen by doing things the right way. But I'm not going to miscoach you just to win. No, I'm going to coach you right. We're going to learn, and we'll win as we go. And so that approach has actually been good because, not to brag, but we've won a baseball championship when I was coaching in Little League, and we won a football Super Bowl this year. So I think it's working out pretty good.
I wish you were my dad, because I'd have been better cornerback now if you were my dad.
I mean, it's something that I kind of think about us over here. So I kind of said to you before we came on air that as a Brit, I was big into my rugby at like the age of 4 or 5, and maybe had a similar kind of upbringing to you guys did when you're teaching football from that age. But I came into football at 18, 19, and even now, like kind of 13, 14 years into learning about all this stuff, I kind of really feel like a child when it comes to learning about stuff. So I was watching one of your DB Room videos this lunchtime just to kind of get an idea of what that channel is for and how you speak about the game. And it was a video teaching about cover one and how the offense might use motion in order to find out whether a team's in man or in zone. And it's something that kind of, if you're watching the broadcast, you can see it happen in real time, and you get it, because like you can see a man moving with a guy or not moving with a guy, and intrinsically, okay, I get that they're in man or in zone. But the way that you speak about the video in terms of, and if they motion out the tight end out wide, you don't want the tight end to be lined up with the corner outside. You want to have the safety on him, even if he's still outside, and the X receivers kind of inside him. In terms of where you want your coverage to be. And so you ideally like these guys to switch over, but you can't do it if you're not going to disguise what your coverage is. And then talking about, like, if people go in motion, you kind of want to pass this guy off, but you're going to remain in man if you've got 3 linebackers or something like that. Like, and you're talking about this, and I'm like, this is stuff I can see and I can understand, but being able to put the words to it and explain it to someone so that it makes sense to that person is just a skill that, like, blows my mind. And you put it so easily. So I really found it useful, and I hope you do go back to that, because it's something that I'm going to take something away from every time I watch a video. So I hope you get back to that. But in terms of explaining it to someone, you had a load of guys in that room. Tracy was there in your last year when he was a rookie, and he was quoted as saying, Glover really helped me out in developing my game and what have you. Did that come naturally to you? You said before that, you were there for people, but in terms of trying to teach people how to play the game better, to learn the game better, was that something that came naturally, or did you progress that skill as you got older? How do you do that?
I think it came natural to me. I think I've been in that role, in that position, kind of my whole life. And so being able to teach the game, talk to the game, being able to, put the game into terms where the average person could understand it. That is something that, I've been told by a lot of people that, man, I can really understand when you say it because you make it simple for us, and so that's kind of how I look at the game, and that's kind of how I've always taught it. That's kind of how I've helped, players that I play with, other guys, other safeties, corners, people in the groups when we're trying to figure things out. I'm always about like, hey man, how can we make this easier? Because when you're playing a game and you got tons of guys moving, you got 80,000 people screaming, coaches screaming, this and this and that, it's all chaotic. How can we make this simple for us? And that was one of my biggest things, trying to find ways to make it simple. And so it just kind of comes natural for me, man. I don't know. It's hard to explain. But I've always been able to do it. Just take it and try to make people see it, for what's important. Because I mean, you're gonna have other little things that get thrown in there that offenses will do, or people or whatever, that's really not important. You got to take the things this is what's important. This is what's going to hold up for you 90% of the time. That 1%, you just got to be a good football player, right? I mean, and it's with anything, right? Like doing an interview, right? 90% of the time, things are going to go exactly kind of how you want it to be. So for that 10%, that one time that it don't, like, you got to be able to, finagle it, or you got to be able to, carry on. You got to be able to, like, keep the conversation going, even though you lost your script and you don't know what question you want to ask next. You just got to kind of have to make it work for that one time. But when this is what you do, you can figure out how to get it done, right? So 90% of the time, the game is going to be, they're gonna do things like they do, and that 10%, that 1 out of 10 plays that they mix it up on you, you just gotta be a good football player and play football.
So
So
for you yourself, obviously, who sort of taught you? Obviously, when you're growing up, all rookies, they will sit and watch tape for hours and hours and hours. I'm sure you've done that yourself. Was there a certain player who, when you were growing up, when you were a rookie, whose tape you would go and watch sort of like religiously, whether it be the way they see the game, the way they played? Was there someone you looked up to and tried to, to just learn from?
nah, it really wasn't, man. And what's crazy, when I was in Houston, I didn't really have that veteran corner to even teach me, because my rookie year, Dante Robinson was our lead corner. And he kind of held out all the training camp. He came back the first week of the season because, he was in contract dispute. And so then after I go through that year, and so then going to my second year, Dante was gone, Jock Reeve was gone, Fred Bennett. Like, I was the older corner in our room, and I was only in year 2. So I didn't really have anybody to like teach me how to watch film, teach me how to like do anything, study people, this or that. And so I just kind of had to do it by like what works for me. And so you have some people who, yeah, they sit there and they watch hours and hours and hours of film. And I was never really that guy to watch hours and hours and hours of film. And it's weird, people don't believe that, but yeah, I will watch it. But it didn't take me long to kind of figure it out, because I was a student, I was a fan of the game. And so even before I would have to cut the film on, I always kind of had an idea, just because if a game was on TV, I obviously watched the game, right? So if we're playing, who the Detroit Lions playing next week, I don't even know.
Atlanta.
Who they're playing, Atlanta?
Yeah.
All right. So I don't even know. Like, I don't think I've watched one game from Atlanta all year. So I won't even I won't even use that game. But the game they just played, right? You look at the Arizona game, right? They just played Arizona. So before I even cut the film on, just from being a football fan, I would say, okay, offensively, they got Kyler Murray. They got DeAndre Hopkins, who is injured right now. They got AJ Green, who is a good receiver, but he's on the older side of things, right? And then they got the young kid from Texas A&M, I think Christian Kirk. But outside of that, and this is just for me being a fan, I can't tell you. I don't know who who the Cardinals running back is, right? I don't know who he is. If you tell me his name, I'm gonna be like, oh yeah. But he's not one of those guys where I'm just like, oh, that's Jonathan Taylor, or they got this guy, right? So I would automatically feel like, okay, they're gonna put the ball in Kyler Murray's hand a lot, right? They're gonna try to go to AJ Green some. They in shotgun 90% of the time, so you're gonna get the shotgun runs, right? So now, for me, I already know that kind of going before I even cut the film on. So now it's about, okay, well, who is AJ Green? Well, okay, well, AJ Green is a taller guy. He's an outside receiver, so he's gonna try to beat you on go balls and comeback routes and slants here or there. But he's not one of those guys that's gonna be like a Tyreek Hill, right? So now I need to say, okay, well, how they're using AJ Green. So now I know that. Okay, well then boom, they'll mix in with the tight end every now and then. I see that, yada, yada, yada. So it don't really take me that long to kind of figure out like, okay, this is who they have and this is how they're trying to use them. Because at the end of the day, the offenses are going to run the same plays over and over, and they're going to get the ball to the same guys over and over. It's just all about how they're going to make it look different this week. You know what I'm saying? We used to say it's the same girl with a different dress on. It's going to be the same plays. It's just going to look different. You know what I'm saying? Like, seriously, one week they're going to run it out of trips. The next week they're going to run it out of empty. But when you look at how they block it, it's still going to be trips because the other two people are going to be in there just to block, right? So it's going to be the same thing. So you got to be able to read through that to understand, okay, this is really all they're trying to do. And then, like I said, for me, football came kind of easy for me. So I didn't have to look at hours and hours and hours to like notice that. I could see that, when I would study a quarterback, it didn't take me long to see, okay, he likes to look off his his targets, basically. He's gonna come out, he's gonna look to the left when he hits his back foot, boom, then he's gonna look to the right. Okay, well, now I see that. Okay, I look at that 4 or 5 times, I'm like, all right, well, that's how he does it. So when he comes out, he's gonna look like this. When he hit his back foot, boom. When he hit his back foot, that's where he wants to throw. So when I get in the game, because everybody's changed stuff up a little bit here and there because they self-scout, obviously, right? So I don't want to get in the game and be like, all right, when they do this, this is what they're going to do. No, I'm going to have a clue as what I think you're going to do, and then I'm going to confirm it with my eyes. So when I get in the game and I see, okay, boom, he's coming out, he's looking, and I already got a clue, right? Because I already know, like I said, I already know AJ Green is to the left, and he's a deep ball guy. So I'm already expecting, okay, it's 3-by-1, AJ's backside by himself. So this is a good chance for them to go deep ball or try to attack the one-on-one matchup. So now when the quarterback comes out and he's just looking to the opposite side and he hits his back foot and turns to look towards AJ, I'm gone right now. Like, I'm already gone because the quarterback's not going to come back, hit his back foot, look to one side, then come back. They don't have that kind of time. If they do that, it's a scramble play, it's a broken play. And so it's just little stuff like that where I would get little clues, little things that would help me, and I would be good with that. I wouldn't have to watch, hours and hours of film. I feel like people that's doing that, they don't really know what they're watching. They just watching stuff to say, oh yeah, I watched hours of film. Like, it don't take hours of film to figure out what you need to figure out if you're a fan of the game. You know what I'm saying?
They watched, but they didn't understand.
Yeah, they just watching stuff to watch stuff. Like some stuff don't even make sense.
So do you think that's why maybe DBs make good pass game coordinators? Because the best DBs understand the concepts that the offense are trying to run. That's what it takes to be a good DB. And so if you understand that intrinsically, then actually trying to put a passing game into effect, you can kind of go on the other side and say, well, I know what would make it hard for me, so let's go and do that.
Right. And that happens. That happens a lot. That happens a whole lot. There's some coaching staffs that, they require people to, cross train. If you was a wide receiver coach, they want you to go and coach the DBs so that you can learn the game from the DB perspective. So now it helps you as a wide receiver coach. So you understand this is what they're teaching DBs, and this is how we can, beat that as a wide receiver, and then vice versa. This is what they're teaching those wide receivers. This is the play concept. This is the landmarks. This is where they're trying to hit the ball. They want to throw the deep dig. They're going to hit it, 12 to 15 yards, 2 yards outside the hash or whatever. Like, this is the window. This is the window. When they want to do this is where they're going to be. When they line up here, this is what they're trying to do. But like you said, most good DBs, they can figure that stuff out. They can see it. And so you can become good coordinators, good pass coordinators, good things like that, just because you understand the game. But I feel like that's just being smart. It's just being smart football players. Everybody's not a smart football player. And just because you're not a smart football player doesn't mean you're not a good football player. You're just tons of talented guys who are just not very smart. And there's tons of guys who are very right. There's tons of guys who are very smart who physically can't keep up, but mentally they know exactly what's going on, right? So, and that's because you've had to play like that your whole life. You know what I'm saying? If you're a smart guy, you've had to be a smart guy your whole life. A lot of the guys that you see who are not very smart, they're probably the super freak athletes, because they've been super freak athletes their whole life. And so no one ever really had to teach them the game, because they've always been better than everybody else. So they've always been better than everybody else. So they didn't have to learn the little nuances that it takes to win, because they've always just been better than everybody else. Whereas you get those kids who are short, well, now they got to learn the art of the pump fake in baseball and basketball, right? You know what I mean? The tallest guy don't have to pump fake in basketball. So then once he get to the NBA, he don't even understand the concept of a good pump fake, because he's never had to do it until now, because everybody else is tall. And so that's what you see a lot. The guys who are super smart are probably the guys who have had to lean on that ability their whole life. Like, you look at Tom Brady, right? You look at Peyton Manning. Those guys are slow, right? So they were slow when they were little kids. So for Tom Brady to be a good quarterback in high school, guess what he had to be? He had to be freaking smart, man. I mean, he had to be accurate. But for Vince Young to be a good quarterback in high school, he didn't have to be smart. He was faster than everybody. He was bigger than everybody. You see what I'm saying? So that's what happens, especially when you get to the league and things kind of even out, right? The guys who are smart, they can survive for a little while, but at some point, you just can't keep up, or physically you just can't beat certain people. Even though you're smart, you just can't beat certain people because they're physically way better. And then sometimes you get those guys who are physically gifted, but they're not smart enough. And so I tell my young kids, it doesn't matter if you're the fastest guy on the field if you're running in the wrong direction. You're not doing us any good. You know what I'm saying? And so it's a good balance that you got to have of being smart and being, athletically gifted. And I feel, and one more thing, I tell them all the time, there's three types of athletes. You have the guys who are very smart and they can be really good football players. You have the guys who are super athletic and they can be really good football players. And then you have the guys who are super athletic and they're super smart. And then that's where you have your Hall of Famers.
Makes total sense. I mean, so I guess the idea is like everyone is governed by their limitations, and understanding them is the key to being great at being you. And like you said, knowing yourself is the best way that you can. Yeah, absolutely.
Know what you're good at.
I know that we've kept you a long time, and I still have so much on my thing to go through. So I don't know how long you have. I don't want to kind of take up too much of your day, but we still had a few questions about the current Lions team. I don't know how much of that you watch, and then some people had some questions in advance. I don't know how much time you have, but you let me know if we're going into your private time.
I'll try to knock them out. I just had to shorten my answers. So.
Yeah, that sounds great. Ryan, I don't know if you had another question quickly just before we rock into that.
Just one thing. I just wanted to know, what do you fill your days with nowadays? Is there any businesses or any ventures? I know you like photography. I've seen on your Instagram you've got a separate
Yeah.
page for taking photos. You like to take photos. Is that something you've got hobbies now you've picked up over the years?
You know what? I love the art of photography and videography, man. I got into it with my kids. I've always really liked cameras and stuff. I've always had them, never really dove into the art of it. And then as I got towards the end of my career, getting ready to retire, I was like, man, you know what? I really want to learn how to do it and do it right. Cause I've been using, GoPro cameras and stuff to record my kids' baseball, but I really wanted to learn how to like edit and film and do all those different things because my kids were young. And I was like, you know what? My kids are young, they're athletes, they're boys. They're gonna have hopefully Lauren willing a lot of birthday parties, a lot of field trips, and all types of different events. So I'm like, you know what? I want to learn how to do this stuff and do it right and do it good. And that way I don't have to pay someone to come and film my kids' sports games so I can get content or, take photos because I'm with them all the time. I'm at their practices, I'm at their games, I'm in the car with them as they're riding the practices. So if I wanted to do a full life documentary of them, I could do that. And so I wanted to really get into it and learn it. And so once I got into it and started learning, I started realizing there's so much out there in the photography video world that I just had no clue about. And so now I'm just like in love with it. And so I love taking photos. I take pictures of almost everything. And I mean, I love doing videos. I just love doing it all. And it's just such a great expression. Art is the one thing that like you really can't be wrong, right? It's as my expression of something. You see some people that have, world famous art and it's look like just paint splattered on a whatchamacallit, but it's freaking art, you know what I'm saying? And so I just love it, man. So yeah, I do that. I'm trying to it's a hobby that I love. At some point I probably will turn it into where I'm just kind of having fun, making, do a little business, take photos and stuff like that. But as of right now, I just kind of have fun with it and practice. But I will say I have gotten a whole lot better over my years of just doing it and practicing and then putting myself out there. And so I'll be excited once I get to the point to where I'm just like, you know what, I'm taking on clients and I'm doing photo shoots and all that fun stuff because it's fun to me. I will say that.
So let's move on to talk a bit about the current Detroit Lions. We already spoke about Dan Campbell a little bit, but obviously they took in Ifeatu Melifonwu as a rookie this offseason, got injured early, but he's this sort of cornerback that you may be talking about who's a bit of a freak athlete, very tall. There's been rumors that we might be pushing him to safety as that might suit him a little bit better. You've obviously got Tracy, who you played with. Will Harris made a transition. Guys in the chat were talking about it earlier. He played a outside corner for the first time in his career on Sunday and actually acquitted himself quite well. What do you make of the current secondary and the current team itself? Obviously, it's 2-11-1, and yet they're showing promise. They're kind of, you can see from how they are against the spread that they're at least outperforming Vegas's expectations of what this team is capable of. What do you see in this team?
You know what? Like I said, just to be 100% honest, I haven't watched as much, because I've been very, very weird. I'm very busy on Sundays with kids sports. It's weird. And then the Lions, you see glimpses, right? You see like, man, the Lions were winning this game 17 of whatever, and then they end up losing it at the end. So when you start seeing stuff like that, especially when you have young players, new systems, they're competing, they're playing very hard. They're just, trying to learn how to win, right? Young guys trying to learn how to close games out offensively and how to close games out defensively. As far as the secondary, you know what? I really only played with one of those guys, and that was Tracy. And I only played with Tracy for 1 year. And so a lot of the younger guys, I don't really know them like that. I know what I see. Obviously, I know Jeff Okuda, who's injured. But the other guys, that I'm seeing making plays, I don't really know them. I know Money's making plays that I see. I seen another guy, and I don't know her name. I see the draft picks, the different guys that are getting injured. But I can't sit here and say that I've really just watched them enough deeply to really make in-depth comments. But I will say that you see them fight, you see them play hard, you see them how they lose games, and you know that if they continue on this trend and continue to work and not lose and not get discouraged in their journey, that eventually, hopefully, once they get the right pieces, get enough guys healthy, get enough veteran guys, bring in a different guy here or there, that they could possibly do something really well. And that's what you want to see. And so hopefully, after, winning that game a couple weeks ago and then winning last week, beating the Arizona team that's, one of the top ranked teams in the NFC, having 3 games left, hopefully finishing off the season strong. Right. So right now, if you're, I think you were 0-10 and 1, and then you ended up 1-10 and 1, now you're 2-10 and 1. If you can end the season, I don't know if they got 3, maybe 4 games left. If you can end the season on a 3-4 game winning streak, that's really good momentum going into the offseason, where guys start to realize, okay, this is kind of how we started to win. This is kind of, how we built ourselves. And so that we can take that energy, take that momentum into the offseason, have a good free agency, have a good draft, all those different things, try to go into training camps, come out healthy, and try to get out to a faster start next year, because those guys would be 1 year older, 1 year more experience, 1 year more of understanding how to win and what it takes. So that's kind of what I think about the Carolines right now.
All right. Let's go to questions from listeners and take it quick fire. So, Ant, do you want to kick us off with one of Ash's questions?
Yeah, obviously, you've mentioned, about your knowledge of the game, how you've picked up over the years. If you ever wanted to transition that into a coaching position in the NFL, or is that something that you've never really thought about?
You know what, man? I've thought about coaching. The NFL coaching for me it takes so much time, man. It takes a ton of time. And that's the one thing that I haven't been able to mentally commit to, is just the time that it takes to be an NFL coach. But I really like I said, I really like high school. I really like the youth, yeah, those guys in the NFL and NFL coaching is it's the highest level, right? But those guys in the league, they're already in the league. I really love impacting the younger guys, the guys that, are the future, the guys that are going to be in the league, and, helping some of those guys, because that's a tough time in a lot of people's lives, the tough decisions that they have to make, going to high school, going to college, choosing to go to college, not wanting to go to college, trying to get recruited, all those different things. And so being able to have someone that, has your best interests in mind, trying to help you, that care about you, that can impact your life, that's something that I'm really more into, as opposed to, just coaching at the highest level and making more money. That stuff is all cool and everything, but I really like impacting lives.
Makes sense. Which is your, so still from Ash on Discord, which is your favorite interception for the Lions that you made?
Ooh, I would probably have to say, either the Drew Brees interception in week 7 of 2014, or the Matt Ryan interception in week 3. I think it was week 3 of 2017 season.
All right.
The Matt Ryan interception was dope.
That's what he said as well, actually. He picked that out before you said it, so it's funny you picked the same one. Got Court Medicott on Facebook, who says, who's the best defensive players that you've played with in your career? And he offers up Watt and Sue as possible choices, but maybe you have someone else in mind?
Yeah, J.J. Watt was really good. And I played with J.J. Watt. He was early in his career, but he was really good. Sue was really good. I played with Jonathan Joseph, a cornerback in Houston. He was really good. Obviously, Slay is really good. Ziggy, when he was in his, year, he was really good. DeAndre Levy was really good. It was a lot of guys who were really good football players, honestly. And I'm not just saying that just because, to say it, but like to see some of those guys and how they work and to see the results that they have on the field, like those guys are really, really good. You know what I'm saying? And, like even now, I was with Quandre when he was young, now he's an older guy and he's, one of the top safeties in the league, so all those guys are really good football players, man. And so it's kind of hard to pick like who's the best and this and this and that. And I try not to get into all that stuff because, like I said, I really love to respect the game and to play in the NFL, to play in professional sports at the highest level. I mean, we're all good. We're all very talented players. It's just, some guys, are better than others. Some guys put it together at the right times and the right moments. Some guys can't. But we're all really talented, and I really try to just respect players for who they are and how they play the game.
Makes sense.
So yeah, Don Burrs asked on YouTube. He's asked about your thoughts on the upcoming draft about Kyle Hamilton. Obviously, people talk about the draft, they talk about positions of value, and we've always been told over here that safety isn't a position of value. I don't really get it myself, obviously. I think a skilled player is a skilled player and he should go, where his skills should make him so. But, what are your thoughts potentially on Kyle Hamilton going as a top 3 pick? He'd be the highest drafted safety ever, maybe breaking this opinion that safeties don't matter as much as other positions.
Yeah, I mean, this is what's crazy. Kyle Hamilton, that's the guy from Notre Dame, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think I saw his name the other day somewhere. Once again, I don't really know Kyle Hamilton like that. But if he's ranked that high, obviously he's a good football player. Harrison Smith came out of Notre Dame, so the safety track record that helps him. But I feel like these scouts, man, these guys, they scout these guys, and sometimes they get it right, sometimes they don't. But I feel like the draft is all based off your team. I don't feel like you can, I feel like a lot of times we try to put values on different positions and say the safety isn't as much as this or the running back isn't that or this and that. But I mean, game changing players are game changing players, man. It doesn't matter the position. Like, if a running back is a game changer and say for instance, you got a running back that's a game changer, real game changer, and Jacksonville Jaguars are first on the clock. Like, if this kid is really the number one, like the best player, they don't need a quarterback. They may take a running back and they'd be like, oh, he's the first running back taken first overall in the draft, and because that's what Jacksonville needed. However, if the Colts some kind of way ended up with the first pick, they probably don't need a running back. I mean, Jonathan Taylor seems to be, pretty good right now. So I think it's really just all depends on who's up to pick and what they need as a team and what they feel is important to them. In some systems, safety isn't very important from that standpoint. In other systems, the safeties are super important and they need those type of guys because of the defensive system that they run. So, I try, like I said, I try not to just generalize it and say, okay, this is that, this and that. If you're a game changer, you're a game changer. And I think, throughout the course of the years in the draft, we've seen that you can always find a good player anywhere. If, we've seen Tom Brady come out in the 6th round. We've seen Arian Foster come out undrafted. Plenty of guys come out undrafted. You see myself in the 4th round. You've seen guys in the 1st round be bust. You've seen all types of different things. So you can find good guys anywhere in the draft. You just got to be true to your system, what you need and what fits your team, and make your pick, man, and not worry about, oh, we never take a safety in the top 3. Like, why not? If that's what you need, go get him.
Makes total sense. Kevin had a couple of questions and a comment. First question quickly was, how difficult is it to communicate with your teammates on the field? So you were saying how loud it is with 80,000 people there and the coaches shouting. How much time do you spend looking at everyone else's assignments as well as just your own? So obviously you're trying to make the best play you can for the guy you're assigned to if you're a man, or if you're in zone, you're trying to survey everything. But how much are you trying to correct maybe if you've seen something that someone else hasn't?
I mean, it's different. And that's why for me, I put a premium on practice. I felt like practice is where you build that to where it makes the end game communication easier, because when you're in practice, you're practicing with the person every day. You're having to communicate with the person every day. So when you're going over different plays in practice, you're going over different things in the communication and what you see and how you see it. And if I see this, this is what I'm thinking. If I see that, then this is what I'm thinking. So I'm probably going to make this call if they come out in this, or I'm probably going to make this call if they get like this, if they get this close. So we want to do this. If they're kind of far, we want to do that. Like, it's so many different things that we discuss and we talk about in practice, and then you go over it again in the meeting. So you make sure that everybody's on the same page, right? So then once we get in the game, it's all about seeing it and making that decision. You know what I'm saying? Because the offenses, they're going to try to put you in indecisive situations where, is he tight? Is he kind of midway? Should we make this call? Should we make that? That's what the offense's job is to do, is to create some kind of indecision, some indecisiveness on you as a defensive player, to where now you kind of up in the air, you're looking at each other, you don't know this and that, and all of a sudden they snap the ball. One person is thinking one thing, the other person is thinking another, and then all of a sudden you got guys running wide open, right? That's what the offense is trying to do. So it's really all about being confident in what you see and what you feel and what you believe, and then just going with a call. And if you make the call and we're all executing that call, then we're going to be okay. It may not be the best call in hindsight, but as long as we're all doing the same thing, we're going to be okay. So we used to always say, if we're all wrong, then we're all right, right? So that's just kind of how it is. And so in a game, you're expecting these things, you're expecting certain things. So it's hand signals, it's eye contact, right? It's a lot of pointing, right? Because like I said, when we've already talked about stuff, when we get in the game and it's happening fast, like, I got to know that you're seeing the same exact thing that I'm seeing. And this is the play. This is what we done talked about. So when we look at each other and we start shaking our head and pointing, I got to know that this is what we're doing. And that's what you have a lot when you have veteran secondaries and veteran defenses that have played a lot. When you have a lot of young guys, it's different, because they do feel like they got to talk, and it's very hard to hear because it's that many people. So you got to have body language and sign language and all these different things that you can, use to make the communication easier. And like I said, a lot of that is in the week of practice, in the meeting rooms, and in all those different situations where you're kind of talking to each other. Sitting down at the cafeteria, you might think about something, but, oh yeah, man, you know what I was thinking about? And in practice, when we had this play right here, I made this call, but just after thinking about it, I think I'm gonna make this call when we get in the game. I'll show it to you when we get in the meeting room, but I think I want to do this, because if they do this, then we can do that, and yada, yada, yada. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of that stuff kind of happens throughout the week. And then once you get in the game, it's just about seeing it, being confident in it, and being able to make the call.
Kevin also asked a second question. He says, just quickly, your own favorite personal performance, and which one was your best team game?
Ooh, my favorite personal performance? Yikes.
I mean, it kind of comes back to you saying, like, the box score maybe doesn't represent what you did best, right?
Right.
So,
right.
you came away from that game and you're like, I couldn't have done better than that.
Right. You're right. I've definitely, you know what, just to keep it easy, like I said, I wouldn't say it was, I don't know how, because I would have to really think back to a bunch of different games, but I will say the game that we played against Atlanta in 2017, that was, I think I had a pretty good game that game. But I mean, I think I couldn't tell you my own personal favorite best performance. I remember we played Green Bay in 2000 and might have been 2000 and Might have been 14. It might have been 2014. We played Green Bay in week 3 in Green Bay. I mean, in Detroit, if I'm not mistaken, because we beat them. If I'm not mistaken.
I
Yeah.
am having a look now. 19-17 win for the Lions.
In 2014,
Mm-hmm.
it was in 2014, I think. Was it week 3?
Yeah, looks like it. Don Carey 40-yard fumble return for a touchdown to open the game. Yeah.
Yep. And if you look at that box score, I don't think you'll even see my name. I don't think I had one tackle. I don't think I had one pass breakup. I don't think I had anything that game.
No, you're right. Matthew Stafford has a tackle, but you do not.
I didn't have a tackle that game. Right. Yep. But in that game, defensively, the calls, the position, and everything, like, was probably one of my best mental games. Like I was freaking on top of like everything that the Packers were trying to do. And so I didn't have to make a tackle. And that's a good thing as a safety, especially a free safety. When you don't have to make a tackle, that means that the front seven are stopping the run. I mean, the receivers are tackling. I mean, the corners are tackling the receivers before you have to make the tackle, right? I mean, that's what people don't really understand. Like as a free safety, you're not supposed to have to make a lot of tackles. It's not good if you have to make a lot of tackles, right? And so to come out of that game and not have any tackles, but mentally to feel like, man, I was really on top of it, bro. Like, I felt good.
Got 2 more questions for you. Kevin just finished that by saying, comment, he was one of my favorite players, let him know. So there we go. Done
Appreciate
that, Kevin.
You, Kev.
2 questions left. First one from Tom Wilkinson, who's a kind of guest contributor to our pod. He says, what did he think was his biggest strength as a player, especially compared to other elite safeties in the league, which made him one of the best in the game? I think we kind of maybe covered this a little bit, but what set you apart?
Yeah, I mean, I would have to say, my availability, being there every day, being at practice every day. So being able to affect the guys mentally, using my brain and how I saw things. That was probably my biggest thing that separated me, just my love for like the game, my teammates, and how I respected it. And yeah, that plays out in so many different ways, but not taking anything for granted and really diving into myself, my teammates, and using my ability and who I was to impact my teammates. I feel like that was one of the biggest things, because a lot of times you have guys who are considered to be your good guys and they don't really care about their teammates. You know what I'm saying? As long as they continue to get their numbers and their accolades, they're fine with that. And I was totally different. I really wanted to connect with my teammates. And like I say, that to me led to greater things on the field. And so I would have to say, that portion was probably one of my biggest things. And I mean, I'm sure if you talk to a lot of guys that I played with, they'll probably tell you the same thing. That like I always just tried to help people and give them knowledge and all those different things, and try to help make the game and life and all those things easier, per my experience. And that didn't mean I was always right, but it's just per my experience and what I have had experienced. This is how we can, help each other.
You spoke about your teammates there. Don Burr asks on YouTube, he says, do you still keep in touch with many of your teammates? I think he referenced the 2014 team, specifically DeAndre Levy. Do you still talk to many of those guys from back then?
I talked to, more the DBs. I talked to Slay a lot. I talked to Quin a lot. I talked to James Ahedebo from that team. He lives out here in Houston. Now with social media, you keep up with these guys and you see them and you come in and you message and stuff like that through the different, media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, all those different things. As far as talking on the phone or, hitting them up like that, don't talk to a whole bunch of them. Hit Sue up every now and then, but those guys are still playing. And I talked to Levy last year. Haven't talked to him in a while. And, Tully, like I say, through social media, reach out here and there. But it's really those defensive backs that you were really close with when you played, that that you keep in touch with, at least for me.
What a team that was when you went through that. Ryan, you set this meeting up. Do you have a final question for Glover before we sign off?
I do, yes. If I'm about to put in the spot, who would you like to see make the Super Bowl, or who do you think could possibly win it all? Who are your favourites? Who are you feeling good about right now?
Oh man, the Super Bowl. So I'm weird because I never feel like the favorites make it. So, right now they're talking about Green Bay. They could, they could, they could. I don't think Tampa will go back. I think, obviously they got pieces. I think it'll be difficult for them to go back. So if you look at the NFC, I would probably have to go with it's tough, man. I don't think Arizona's gonna go. The Rams. I don't think the Rams will make it either. I don't think they'll make it. I think it'll probably be in the championship game. I think it'll probably be Green Bay and somebody. I don't know exactly who at the moment.
Oh,
But I think
that
Green Bay will
hurts
make
me.
it to the championship game. I
Oh.
mean, because I think they're gonna do enough to win out the rest of the season and get the number 1 seed. So they're gonna get the bye, and then they're gonna have to win one game, and they're in the championship game. You know what I'm saying?
They got the round.
But
They got the easy round.
yeah, and like I said, I think Arizona's gonna limp into the playoffs, and I don't know if they will. I mean, they haven't won a home game yet, or not haven't won, but they're not very good at home, right? I think they're 7-0 on the road, but they're like 3 and something at home. So that's worrisome. And then with DeAndre Hopkins being out, he possibly could come back for the playoffs. So I feel like they're gonna limp into the playoffs because they started out so hot. So I don't think that'll last too long. You look at the East Division, the Cowboys. You can't really trust the Cowboys. You never really know with them. You look at the South. You got the Saints, Atlanta. Tampa's going to come out of that division. The West is probably going to send the most teams, right? You got Cardinals, obviously. You got the Rams. I guess they put a dagger in Seattle's heart in chances on the other night. So I really don't know, man. You look at the North. You got Detroit. You got Green Bay. I don't really know what other teams are going to be able to get. Maybe they're going to be fighting for those last couple wild card spots. So I think that's what it's going to come out to be on the NFC side. It's going to be probably Green Bay against somebody. It could be Tampa. They get a couple guys back healthy. They got a couple major injuries this past week. So that'll affect them, but you can never count Tom Brady out, and I do believe that. So I can say Tampa may be there. When you go to the AFC, it's tough, man. AFC is tough, man. You just don't know. Kansas City's on a roll right now, but they shown that they could be beat. Buffalo has been so up and down. You just never know what's going on with them. New England has, you never know with them. Young quarterback, but veteran coach, veteran defense. Cincinnati has looked good at times. Baltimore looked like they're limping. I don't know, man. You might have to ask me this in a couple of weeks, man. But if I just had to choose, I probably would say, give me Kansas City in the championship game against, probably against New England again. So my Super Bowl probably would be Kansas City, Green Bay. That's my Super Bowl.
That'd be a fun watch.
It would be a fun watch. Just gonna draw it to a close there, Glover. We've had you for so long. Thank you so much for donating your time to us, to the viewers. We've had a lot more on than normal, and I wonder why. To Ryan, thank you for setting us up and for being on and carrying it through with me the questions. thank you so much to everyone for watching. You've been fantastic and all your questions really interesting. We'll see you tomorrow for our usual podcast previewing the Atlanta game on Sunday. But for now, Glover, thank you. Really appreciate it. I hope to speak to you again in the future. But let's go Lions. One pride.
Oh, yes, sir.
Right.
I appreciate you guys having me on, man. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Let's go
Thank you very
Lions.
much.